across Peachtree Creek in that area. The water will likely start to recede in this location, but it's a little bit of a warning for people downstream on these creeks that we could see additional flooding there as this water goes back into those creeks and streams and goes downstream.
Yeah, this is such a visual when we talk about things kind of turning into rivers. This is what's happening, to have a boat that has space to bring a family out, that requires a motor to be able to move along in the water that is deep enough to handle that. You hear a dog in the distance. We know people and pets have been trapped overnight in this storm, and these are the kind of teams required to go in and get them out safely. We've heard again and again, you don't want to walk into that water for a lot of different reasons. Liza talking about snakes and wildlife, but it can also just knock you off your feet, and we know not everyone maybe is in a position, to be able to safely do that. It's just, you don't want to mess around with it. It is far better to play this safe and let the people who are trained come and get you out safely.
And when you look at that boat, Cheryl, it looks like it had to go down. I don't even know if I should say the road. I don't know what's beneath. It went out of view quite far, so whoever they're rescuing, they would have had to come out a long way to get to some form of dry land, where we see Liza and her photographer there on the other side. And yeah, when you talk about the contamination and what can be involved in that, that could add a whole other layer to a pretty devastating situation for these families. I see quite a few homes on this street, and that's the thing about it. This is a very highly residential community. People come and go in and out of this community all the time. So these rescues are going to be happening much of the day until we start to see that water go down. And these crews stretch thin. Sometimes the regular boats don't work. Sometimes you got to bring out the one with the motor. So as we just heard from Mayor Dickens there in the press conference, it is an all hands on deck situation. As these calls continue to come in, we're talking about the heart of the city here, where we're seeing these rescues take place. Liza, do we think they're going to get one family, bring them back? Several rescues need to happen there?
Well, I was talking to some neighbors who were concerned about a homeowner that they knew was okay, but her cat, they were having trouble reaching throughout the house and where the cat was located with floodwater, so not sure if it's that family that is getting the call first. Now, in terms of the reach, you were asking about kind of the design of the neighborhood. It's actually a big P, and it's people that are stuck in that kind of corner. It's almost like a little cul-de-sac, that P, that part of the letter that curves in the neighborhood that are really experiencing the most water. And I know you can't see it right now because we're really focused on where the the swift water rescue crews are. But the creek, if I can get Hunter to kind of bring his camera over here, I just want to show you how this really backs up, and it's all around us right now. So it's not just in front of us right here. If we can just kind of poke through beyond the boat, you can see Peachtree Creek right over there flowing through, and that just kind of gives you another vantage point as well. So again, the neighbors have been so kind to us over here. A lot of our 11 Alive viewers have been sharing what they know about this situation, and they've really been checking in on each other because, as you mentioned, this is just a really tight-knit community, a tight-knit neighborhood over here, Hanover West. So we're gonna we haven't seen that boat appear yet, so I'm not sure how long all of this will take. But again, Atlanta Fire saying that they're going to have these rescues continue to pop up, so it sounds like more will be coming in the neighborhood. I don't have exact details on who they're going after right now. The Atlanta Fire team I spoke with was a battalion chief, and it was prior to the dive team coming out here and getting things in place. So again, just a messy situation. And as I know Cheryl mentioned, not only is there wildlife in the water as we've seen, but you can just easily fall off your feet. And gosh, worst case scenario, you see the proximity to the real water just beyond the boats over there, and the creek just really rapidly moving. So it's just not a situation you want to put yourself in or a loved one in, and that's why we so rely and are thankful for these swift water dive teams and all the service and help that they provide. We know how busy they are today, guys.
Yeah, and we're just going to stick with this because this is such a window into people's experiences. And this may be one street in one neighborhood, and they might be at the front door of one family's home right now. But we know it's been a lot of people's experiences. And as we see your shot there in that perspective, Liza, and all the homes lined up, I'm thinking about all the flooding at each of those homes at various levels, if some have basements, or what's happening maybe on that first level as we see the water is at least to the front door of many of those, and understanding the kind of damage that might be facing a lot of these families. Thinking about kids that are home from school today, they aren't at school, instead maybe packing up a bag and climbing into a rescue boat with parents, and what an experience for them to have to deal with on a day off of school. And we know that's happening for a lot of families who are watching along with us here on 11 Live News as these things are playing out. We talk about, as a community, we go through these things together, and we do that in many ways, and some of it is just seeing this play out in real time as we see the first image of that boat coming back into view now, carrying a family. We see some children there on the boat. Looks like they're with their parents with life vests on and bags in their lap, maybe a book bag on that young lady's lap right there, as they go through together as a family this aftermath of Helene.
Yeah, she'll have a pretty interesting report to give, Liza, when she goes back to school on Monday. Looks like mom might be giving the wave there with a smile, just thankful that someone was there. And look to the left, that mailbox nearly completely covered in water, giving you a perspective on how deep that water is. And that is why it was no way they were making it out of that home by foot whatsoever, Liza.
Yeah, and it's so, it hits you after being out here all night. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Because you think about the impact to their homes. And even if it's just the basement and everything, all these families are having to go through, and how tired and worried they probably have been. So it is great to see that everybody's okay, and we knew everybody was okay in this situation.
Yeah.
So,
Liza,
just to again put that, but it's hard not to just realize that everybody's lives are just upended and kind of the cleanup ahead.
I was going to say, Liza, we appreciate your reporting, and you're just such a top-notch journalist, but you've got a huge heart too. And you're out there as a mom, and you understand that this is not just facts playing out in front of you, but people have gone through a lot. It was a long, scary night. In the darkness of the night, trees falling and the flood water rising, and to be greeted on shore by your friends and neighbors, boy, that just means a lot.
Yeah, and just to know that people were there, to respond to that situation. Can you imagine that water just coming in, and you see it rising, and you don't know what's waiting on the other side, or how you're going to get out, or how close the rescue crews could be. And Liza, you've kind of been all over the area, so you've seen a little bit of everything, and just truly being there up close and personal. What these families are going through, and especially you out there as a mom, seeing that young girl get off that boat with her mother, knowing that your babies are at home as well with dad. We're all just kind of weathering this situation together as we see that boat go back out. So clearly there's more people waiting for their turn to know that they're, just a couple of feet away from making it to dry land. This is scary. When you just see your community underwater like that, you don't know what to do.
You don't. And, again, this community saw significant flooding back in 2009. So some of the homes are 9 feet above the floodplain, as I was told. But, it is so wonderful to see neighbors that have been checking on each other and are awaiting these families and, there to take their bag and give them a big hug, and just that sense of community. And I think, we're very grateful that things were not worse overnight in Atlanta, but there's also, a realization that families have a lot to clean up.